My parents stole $120,000 meant for my education to buy my sister a home. I took revenge and forced them to return every dollar. Hi Reddit. I'm not sure how to start this because honestly, I never thought I'd be posting something like this. It feels surreal, but I've got no one else to talk to about this. I, 17 female, recently found out that my parents stole my $100,000 college fund to help my sister Sarah, 25 female, buy a house with her boyfriend Adam, 27 male. Let me take it back a bit. My grandparents, Dad's parents, were pretty well off. They were old school, saved a lot of money, and had always been super loving toward me. I didn't get to see them much because they lived in a different state. But whenever we visited or talked on the phone, they made it clear that they cared. My grandpa passed away 3 years ago, and then last year, I lost my grandma. When they passed, their will came out. They left my parents their house and their savings. Sarah got all of Grandma's jewelry, like expensive stuff that you could sell for tens of thousands, and some family heirlooms. And me? They set aside a college fund, a pretty significant sum of money just for me. The will made it super clear that this money was to be used only for my education, and since I was under 18, my parents were supposed to manage it for me. At the time, I felt grateful. It made me feel like my grandparents really cared about my future, even though they weren't around anymore. I didn't think my parents would ever mess with that. I mean, who does that? But looking back, I should have seen the signs. My sister Sarah has always been the golden child. I don't even know how to explain it without sounding bitter, but she's the one my parents adored. Growing up, everything she did was amazing. She was so talented, so hardworking, so kind. Meanwhile, when I got a good grade or did something I was proud of, I'd just get, "Good job, kid. Keep it up." It was subtle, you know. Nothing super obvious. They never hit me or screamed at me, but it was always clear that Sarah came first. Now Sarah's a kindergarten teacher, and her boyfriend Adam is a zookeeper. They're nice enough people, and I don't have any issue with them personally. But let's just say they're not exactly rolling in money. They've been renting a small apartment, and for the past year or so, all they've been talking about is how they need to buy a house, because it's a smart investment. Anyway, fast forward to last month. I've been applying to colleges and getting pretty excited about finally starting that chapter of my life. One evening, I brought up my college fund. I asked my parents if everything was good to go since I'd need the money for tuition soon. Their reaction was weird. My dad said something like, "Don't worry about it, we'll talk when the time comes." And my mom added, "Just focus on your studies for now." It was like they were dodging the question. At first, I let it slide. I mean, maybe I was being paranoid. But the more I thought about it, the more it bugged me. Something felt off. So I brought it up again a week later. This time, I was a little more direct. I need to know the funds are there. College applications are expensive, and I need to plan. That's when they told me. I remember the conversation so vividly. My mom said, in the most casual tone imaginable, "We used the college money for Sarah. She and Adam are buying a house." I stared at her like she'd just grown a second head. I thought maybe I'd misheard, so I said, "What?" And she repeated it. My dad chimed in too, saying something about how Sarah needed it right now and it wouldn't be fair for me to get a free ride when Sarah had to work her way through student loans. Guys, I lost it. I'm not proud of how I reacted, but I screamed. I demanded to know how they could do this to me, how they could steal the money my grandparents had left for me. My mom just rolled her eyes like I was being dramatic. She said, "You'll figure it out. It's not like you can't take a loan like everyone else." That's when I threatened to sue them. I know I'm a teenager and don't exactly have a lawyer on speed dial, but I was desperate. I told them what they did was illegal, that the money wasn't theirs to take. And you know what they did? They laughed. My dad looked me dead in the eye and said, "With what money? You can't even afford a lawyer." I can't describe how humiliated I felt in that moment. I just stood there, stunned. It hit me all at once how powerless I was. My parents had always treated me like an afterthought, but this was a whole new level. That night, I locked myself in my room and cried until I couldn't anymore. Then I started thinking, my grandparents had trusted my parents to do the right thing, but they had no idea what my home life was like. I never told anyone about how I was treated because it didn't seem worth it. It's not like I was being abused, right? They weren't violent. They just didn't care. But now all I could think was, what if my grandparents knew? Would they have still trusted my parents? The next morning, I made a decision. I was going to leave. I couldn't stay under the same roof as them anymore. I didn't have much money saved, just what I'd made working part-time at a local store, but it was enough to get out for a while. I didn't care where I went. A park bench seemed better than home at that point. I packed a backpack with some clothes, my phone, and my savings in cash. Before I left, I stood in my room for a moment, staring at the walls. I realized that everything I'd worked for, my grades, my college applications, my dreams, was at risk because the two people who were supposed to look out for me had stolen from me instead. I left that morning without saying a word. My parents were in the kitchen having coffee, laughing about something. I didn't even look at them. I just walked out. I went straight to my best friend's house. Her parents are saints, seriously. I told them I just needed somewhere to crash for a few days, and they didn't even hesitate. They welcomed me in, fed me, and gave me a place to sleep. That night, I decided I couldn't do this alone. For the first time, I reached out to other family members, people I barely knew but hoped might help me. My dad didn't have siblings, but he had cousins, and one of them was Uncle Jake. I didn't expect anything, but I was desperate. I messaged him on Facebook, explained the whole situation, and went to bed. The next morning, I woke up to a message from him. It was short but life-changing. "Call me. I'll take care of this." After Uncle Jake messaged me back and told me to call him, I didn't waste a second. I had been so on edge that just seeing someone, anyone, was willing to listen gave me this glimmer of hope I hadn't felt in days. I stepped outside my best friend's house, pacing nervously as I dialed his number. When he picked up, his voice was calm but firm. "Tell me everything from the beginning," he said. I didn't know where to start, so I just blurted it all out. How my parents took my college fund, the way they laughed at me when I threatened to sue, and how I had nowhere to go now. I was talking so fast I was practically out of breath by the time I finished. But Uncle Jake just listened patiently. After I was done, there was a long pause. I thought maybe I'd overstepped or that he wouldn't believe me, but then he said something I'll never forget. "This isn't right. Don't worry, kid. I'll handle this." Uncle Jake didn't explain what he was planning. He just told me to stay put, stay safe, and avoid talking to my parents for now. I agreed, even though part of me wanted to confront them and scream at them all over again. Still, I trusted him. Later that day, things started happening fast. My phone blew up with missed calls and texts from my parents. At first I ignored them, but curiosity got the better of me, and I checked the messages. The tone was different now, panicked, desperate. My mom had written, "We need to talk. Call us back immediately." My dad added, "What did you do? Your uncle is getting involved, and you don't know what you've started." I had no idea what Uncle Jake had done yet, but it was clear he wasn't playing around. That evening, Uncle Jake called me back to give me an update. He had already contacted the executor of my grandparents' will, who was a family friend, and confirmed everything I told him. Apparently, there was no loophole for my parents to justify using the money for anything other than my education. They had messed up big time, and Uncle Jake was ready to take legal action. "You don't have to worry about the details," he told me. "Focus on school. I'll deal with your parents." I don't think I realized just how serious he was until I overheard my best friend's mom whispering about it later that night. I was in their living room when she got a call from one of my extended relatives, probably gossiping about the situation. I caught little bits like, "Did you hear? Jake's lawyers are getting involved. It's serious." Hearing that made my stomach twist. I couldn't decide if I felt relieved, scared, or guilty. This whole situation was turning into something way bigger than I expected. I sat there, staring blankly at the TV, while my friend quietly handed me a bowl of popcorn and said, "Your uncle sounds badass. You're lucky." And you know what? She was right. For the first time in my life, someone was on my side. By the next morning, things had escalated even further. My parents must have realized how serious this was because they started begging. I woke up to texts like, "Please, let's talk. We can work this out as a family. You don't need to involve Uncle Jake. We'll handle your tuition ourselves. We promise." They even promised to fix things, but only on their terms. They still refused to ask Sarah for the money back, and they were trying to act like I was the unreasonable one. That was the last straw for me. I called them for the first time since leaving, mostly to let them hear me out. My mom picked up immediately. "Oh honey, we've been so worried about you. Let's just fix this, okay?" I kept my voice calm, even though I was boiling inside. "You want to fix this? Then give me the money back, it's mine." My dad's voice cut in, frustrated and defensive. "You're being selfish. Do you know how much stress you're causing Sarah? She doesn't deserve this." That's when I snapped. "What about me? I don't deserve this either. Grandma and Grandpa left that money for my education, not for Sarah's house." The line went silent for a second. Then my mom tried her soft, manipulative voice again. "We just thought you'd understand, sweetheart. Family helps family." I laughed bitterly. "Did you think of me as family when you stole from me? Because it sure doesn't feel like it." I hung up after that. I was shaking so bad I could barely breathe. I knew that call wouldn't accomplish anything, but it felt good to finally say something, to stand up for myself instead of just crying about it. After that, I stayed low for a while. Uncle Jake kept me updated in bits and pieces, but he told me not to stress too much. "Your parents dug this hole themselves," he said. "They're going to have to deal with the consequences." It was around this time that Uncle Jake offered to help me move into an apartment. I didn't want to keep freeloading at my best friend's house, even though her family was nothing but kind. It felt awkward being in someone else's home for so long. I told Uncle Jake about it, and within 2 days he had a place lined up for me. The apartment was small, but it felt like freedom. I had a roommate, a girl a couple of years older than me who was friendly and understanding. Uncle Jake had explained my situation to her ahead of time, so she didn't pry, but she offered to help me settle in. When Uncle Jake handed me the keys to the apartment, he said, "You're going to be okay." I promise for the first time in weeks I believed him. I didn't hear from my parents again for a while. They must have been trying to figure out their next move because things got quiet. Uncle Jake told me not to worry if they tried contacting me again. If they were that concerned, they wouldn't have laughed at you in the first place. He was right. I'd spent years feeling like I was invisible to my parents, like I didn't matter, but now, I had someone fighting for me. For the first time, I felt like maybe I wasn't so powerless after all. The first few days in my new apartment were weird. I was finally away from my parents, but it felt strange being on my own. My roommate Ashley was kind and easygoing, but we weren't close yet. She worked full-time and kept to herself, which honestly suited me. It gave me space to think without anyone constantly asking, "Are you okay?" At night though, the silence got to me. My brain wouldn't stop replaying everything. My parents laughing at me, my mom saying I was selfish, my dad accusing me of hurting Sarah. It didn't matter how justified I felt, I still heard their words like a broken record. On the third day in my apartment, Uncle Jake called with another update. "Mediation has been set up," he said. "It's a formality, but we'll see if they come to their senses before we go to court." I asked him what that meant, and he explained that the lawyer was giving my parents one last chance to settle things quietly. The executor of the will had made it crystal clear that what they did was illegal. There was no gray area here. If they didn't agree to return the money, the case would move forward. For some reason, hearing that made me feel sad. I know it doesn't make sense. My parents had stolen from me and laughed in my face, but they were still my parents. It's hard to explain. I don't hate them, but I can't just erase that part of me that still wants them to care. I didn't tell Uncle Jake how I felt though. I didn't want to seem weak or ungrateful. That evening, I got another round of messages from my mom. This time, she wasn't angry. She was playing the guilt card. "We're really sorry for how things turned out. You know we love you, don't you? We were just trying to help Sarah. She's struggling, and as parents we couldn't ignore that." Then my dad chimed in with a follow-up text. "You don't understand how hard this is for Sarah. She's crushed. You're ruining her dream over a misunderstanding." The nerve. They acted like I was the villain, like I was ruining Sarah's life. I didn't respond. I couldn't. If I tried, I'd just end up saying something I'd regret, and I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of knowing they still got under my skin. The next morning, Uncle Jake and I had our first virtual mediation session with my parents. I didn't have to say much because the lawyer did most of the talking, but seeing my parents' faces on that screen was surreal. They looked completely different, like they'd aged overnight. My mom's face was pale, and my dad kept rubbing his forehead like he had the world's worst headache. Neither of them could look directly at me. Their lawyer tried to soften the blow, talking about how they had acted in good faith, and believed they were helping the family as a whole. But our lawyer wasn't having it. He brought up the will's specific terms and how my grandparents' intent was clear: the money was for my education only. When I finally did speak, it was short and to the point. I want the money back. That's it. My mom looked like she was about to cry. We can pay for your tuition ourselves. Why won't you just let us fix this? I clenched my fist under the table. Because I don't trust you. You already took the money once. What's stopping you from screwing me over again? Silence. They didn't have an answer for that because there wasn't one. After the session, Uncle Jake and I talked. He asked how I was holding up, and I admitted that seeing my parents like that messed with my head. It's like they're sorry now that they've been caught. But not because of what they actually did, I said. He sighed. That's probably true, but don't let their guilt tripping get to you. You deserve this money, don't forget that. He was right, but it still stung. A couple of days later, Sarah finally reached out. I wasn't expecting it, but I saw her name pop up in my DMs on Instagram. For a second, I thought she was going to yell at me or blame me, but instead, her message caught me off guard. She wrote, "Hey, I just found out what Mom and Dad did. I'm really sorry. I had no idea they took your college fund. I thought they were helping me out with savings or something. I'm not mad at you, I promise. I just wanted you to know that." I sat there staring at the message for a long time before I responded. Finally, I wrote back, "Thanks for saying that. It means a lot." I don't know if she felt guilty or if she just wanted to clear the air, but it made me feel lighter. At least Sarah didn't hate me. And to be honest, I didn't hate her either. She was just caught in the middle of the mess our parents had created. Uncle Jake called again later that day and told me we had another mediation session scheduled. He said my parents were now trying to stall, probably hoping I'd cave and agree to their terms. "They're banking on you feeling guilty," he warned me. "Don't let them win." It was weird hearing him say that, like we were in a battle, but I guess we kind of were. My parents were trying every trick they could think of to keep the money they stole. I spent that night in my room scrolling through old photos on my phone. There were pictures of me and my grandparents from years ago, birthday parties, holidays, random visits. They were always so proud of me. I remembered how my grandma would hug me and say, "You're going to do amazing things, sweetheart." They believed in me. They saved that money so I could have a better life, and I owed it to them, and to myself, not to let my parents take that away from me. The next mediation session was set for 2 days later, and I was ready. This time, I wasn't nervous anymore. I wasn't sad, I just felt focused. My parents could cry, yell, or beg, but I wasn't backing down. This was my future. After the second mediation session, I could tell my parents were running out of steam. They were still trying to act like they had everything under control. But I could see right through it. Every time their lawyer started speaking, their expressions would tighten, like they were realizing in real time just how much trouble they were in. This time, their desperation was louder. My mom cried almost immediately. "We just thought we were helping the family," she said, wiping her face with a tissue. "Why can't you see that? We were only trying to do what was best for everyone." I didn't flinch. I'd heard this all before. You weren't helping the family. You were helping Sarah at my expense. My dad tried a different tactic. "Look, kid, we made a mistake. We get that. But do you really need to ruin your sister's life over this?" And that right there set me off. Ruin her life? I'm not the one who decided to take the money. That was your choice. Don't put this on me. At that point, our lawyers stepped in and shut them down. I zoned out after that. I didn't need to hear more of their excuses or justifications because, honestly, I was exhausted. For months, they'd acted like I was some sort of villain for demanding what was rightfully mine. But I wasn't backing down. That night, I got a long message from Sarah. She must have found out how bad things were getting for our parents, because the tone of her message was different. Less understanding, more emotional. "Look, I know Mom and Dad messed up, but you don't have to take this so far. They're trying to fix things, and now they're panicking because of Uncle Jake. Can't you just take their deal? Let them pay for your college instead of suing them. I never asked for this, you know." It stung even though she wasn't attacking me. I could tell she wanted me to back down. I stared at her message for a long time before I responded. "Sarah, I'm sorry you're in the middle of this, but this isn't my fault. I'm not taking things too far. Mom and Dad crossed a line, and they need to fix it. The only thing I'm asking for is the money they took." She read it, but she didn't reply. I guess she didn't know what to say. The next day, Uncle Jake called with some news. The lawyer had filed the official paperwork to escalate the case to court. He said my parents were starting to crack under the pressure. They're hoping you'll cave, but they're running out of time. I asked him what would happen next. Well, he explained, they'll either settle with us out of court and return the money, or they'll lose the case in court and pay up anyway. Plus fees. I felt weird hearing that. For so long my parents had held all the power. They were the ones who made the rules, who controlled everything. But now, the tables were turning, and they were finally facing consequences for their actions. Still, it was hard not to think about Sarah. She wasn't innocent in all this, but she wasn't the mastermind either. I wondered how much my parents had told her, and whether she truly believed I was ruining her life, or if she secretly agreed with me. A few days later, I got another message from my mom. I hadn't blocked her yet, though I probably should have. We're begging you. Please call off Uncle Jake. We can't take this anymore. Sarah is devastated, and we're falling apart as a family. You're destroying us. I swear, I had to reread it twice just to process it. They were still trying to guilt-trip me, as if I hadn't spent my entire life feeling like an outsider in my own home. Destroying the family? What family? I didn't respond. I screenshotted it and sent it to Uncle Jake instead. He called me right after. You don't need to respond to that, he said firmly. They're trying to manipulate you again. Focus on yourself. You're doing the right thing. Later that night, my roommate Ashley and I sat in the kitchen eating ramen and talking. She noticed I'd been quieter than usual and asked what was up. I told her about my mom's message and how messed up the whole thing felt. She looked at me and said, "Honestly, you're stronger than me. If my parents did that, I'd probably crumble. You're standing up for yourself and they can't handle it." That hit me harder than I expected. For so long I'd felt powerless, but Ashley was right. This time I wasn't backing down. It didn't matter how much my parents cried, begged, or blamed me. They were the ones who'd made their choices, not me. For a week later, we had our final mediation session. I knew this was it. Our lawyer told me beforehand that my parents' attorney had been pressuring them to settle because fighting this in court would make things even worse for them. When the call started, my parents looked completely defeated. My dad didn't say a word the entire time, and my mom just kept her eyes down. Their lawyer spoke for them, confirming that they would return the full amount of the college fund in exchange for us dropping the lawsuit. It felt anticlimactic in a way. I thought I'd feel victorious or relieved, but all I felt was tired. My parents had spent weeks fighting me, making me feel like I was the villain, only to finally give in because they had no other choice. When the call ended, Uncle Jake clapped his hands together and said, "Well, that's that. They're going to wire the money back." I sat there in stunned silence for a second before I managed to say, "It's over?" "Almost," he said. "They still need to finalize everything, but you did it. You stood your ground, and you won." That night, I got another message from Sarah. This time, it was shorter. "I heard Mom and Dad gave in. I don't know what to say, but I hope you're happy, I guess. It's over now." I didn't know how to respond to her. I wasn't happy, not exactly. I felt more relieved than anything. I just wanted to move on and leave this mess behind me. In the following days, my parents wired the money back. Uncle Jake confirmed everything through the lawyer, and just like that, it was done. My grandparents' gift to me, the thing they had worked so hard to leave behind, was finally back where it belonged. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. About 2 days after everything was finalized, Sarah called me. I'd been expecting it at some point. She'd sent a few passive-aggressive texts over the past week, but this time, she actually wanted to talk. I stared at her name on the screen for a good minute before answering. When I picked up, she sounded calm, tired maybe. "Hey," she said quietly. "I just wanted to talk to you." I didn't say anything at first, so she kept going. "Mom and Dad told me everything. They finally admitted what happened with the money. I know you probably hate me and I don't blame you. I don't even know what to say." Her voice cracked, and for the first time, I realized just how tangled up she must have been in all this. I took a deep breath. "Sarah, I don't hate you. You didn't steal the money." "They did." There was a pause, and then she sighed. "But I still accepted it. I was so focused on getting the house that I didn't even stop to think about where the money came from. That's on me. I should have asked more questions. It caught me off guard hearing her take responsibility. I didn't know what I'd expected from Sarah, but it wasn't this. For once it felt like she was seeing the situation for what it really was. Look, I said. I'm not mad at you. I just wish you'd understand why I had to do this. That money was supposed to be for my future. I couldn't let them take that from me. She was quiet for a long moment before saying, I do get it now. I wish they'd just been honest from the start. It's not fair that you had to go through all this. That almost made me cry, to be honest. I'd spent so long being the second choice to Sarah that hearing her say those words felt surreal. I didn't know if we'd ever have a normal sibling relationship, but this was a start. We ended the call on neutral terms. She even said, I hope you do something amazing with that money. Grandma and Grandpa would be proud of you. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just thanked her. As for my parents, well, they went radio silent after the money was transferred back. I guess they were too ashamed or angry to reach out. I haven't heard a word from them since, and honestly, I'm fine with that. I don't think they're capable of seeing what they did as anything other than helping Sarah, and I don't have the energy to keep fighting them. Uncle Jake told me he got a message from my dad, though. Apparently, my dad tried to make it sound like the whole situation had been a misunderstanding, and they just wanted to make things right. Uncle Jake's response? You had your chance to make things right before we got involved. You didn't take it. I can't lie, that made me smile. Uncle Jake really is the MVP in all this. A week after everything's settled, I had a small victory of my own. I got the final confirmation that I'd been accepted into my top choice college with a scholarship. I was sitting in the living room with Ashley when the email came through, and I actually screamed when I read it. Ashley jumped up, grinning. Did you get in? I shoved my phone at her. Full scholarship, my top school. I don't even have to touch the fund for tuition. We celebrated with pizza and soda that night, nothing fancy. But it felt perfect. I couldn't stop smiling. For the first time in forever, I felt like the future I'd been working so hard for was finally mine. Later that evening, I texted Uncle Jake to tell him the news. His response came almost immediately. Proud of you, kid. I knew you'd make it. He followed it up with another message a few minutes later. Grandma and Grandpa would be over the moon. They'd always said you'd do great things. I sat there staring at those words for a while, trying not to cry. All this time, I'd been fighting for my future because I didn't want their gift to be wasted. Hearing that Uncle Jake believed they'd be proud of me made everything worth it.